لأي الطفل منزل في حقه الدراسة.
هل كنا فعله الرسول من الدين؟
وهو حر أن يعتقد ما شاء.
الفلسفة توجيه هو السائل.
وانت لو لحد السيف ما كنتش هتبقى مسلم النهارده. إذا مرحبا بكم أعزائي في هذه الندوة. You get it once and then you're off the hook.
Yeah.
All right. Everything is set. I hope so. God willing.
Insha Iblis.
Insha Iblis, yeah. Satan willing. Everything is set. Finally, we made it. I'm very, very happy to talk to you. I read your book.
Oh, we're recording now?
We are recording.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, good.
We can cut out whatever you don't like.
No, that's
but
fine.
No, we're not going to do that. We're going to just record whatever.
Yeah, let's go with whatever.
So, I read your book. It's very interesting. I keep going back to it because it's amazing. Has lots of rational arguments, stuff that you can use in your conversations with believers and with unbelievers as well, with atheists and with believers. So, Armin, it's an honor for me to talk to you today. You're one of my favorite people on earth. And I'm not saying that just to, to sound like, to be fake, but it's true. I loved your book. I love what you do. And I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself as a person and about what you're doing with the Atheist Republic and your book and the whole shebang.
Okay. So thank you so much. That was very sweet. Like I feel, thank you. I don't know how to respond to that.
It's the truth. 100%.
Yeah, thank you. That is very nice. It's very good to hear. But yeah, with regards to myself or Atheist Republic, I mean, I don't know how much detail you want to get into with myself. I'll keep it short. I'm an activist. I'm a co-founder of the Secular Jihadists podcast, the founder of Atheist Republic, author of Why There Is No God. By the way, Why There Is No God has been translated to Arabic now.
I posted it on my page on Facebook. It's amazing.
Thank you. It's available for free. And I know it has errors, okay? But we made the conscious decision to release it anyways because we had to decide whether we want to make this available to people or wait forever until we get a 100% correct edited version of it. And we thought the benefit of just releasing it with errors is a lot more than waiting. I mean, because all of this was based on the translation was done by a kind person that just did based on volunteer, right? Mm-hmm. Like we don't have the resources to pay for these things. So somebody volunteered and translated it. And if we had, I waited forever. Like, I wanted this book to be translated to Arabic.
It needed to be translated in Arabic. It's an important book.
So when finally somebody did it, I was like, oh, thank you. And I said, I'm not going to wait for another 10 years for somebody to edit this. I'm just going to put it out there. And once somebody edits it, then we're going to be like, hey, now the edited version is available. Okay?
Yeah, you did it Allah's way, Quran is full of errors and he still published it in the 7th century,
Yeah, right. Well, unlike Allah, I don't deny the errors. But yeah, so that's that. But I'm going to admit something to you. There's a selfish reason why I wrote that book. Okay? Because I was so tired of hearing the
aren't we all, right?
The same arguments over and over again about the God. I was like, every time somebody would come and like, Armin, I have the argument. This is going to convert you. Like, you're going to make you believe in God. And they're like, I have this thing. You cannot deny this. And they come and they say something and like, oh my God, they have been saying this for thousands of years. You really think this was it? You really think that
you found the magic recipe.
And then I did it. But here's the thing, like, a lot of atheists are like, oh, this is too simple. We don't want to talk about this. But we have to, because there's so many new people coming into the, community. A lot of people that are just recently discovering, like, a lot of atheists have moved on to other things, right? More complicated things, more political things, more activism related things, more saving lives things, more community building things, because they're tired of these simple basic arguments. But the thing is that we can't abandon the basics.
That's a very important point. Yes.
Yeah, because the basics are important, because we're still growing. There's still a lot of people that are abandoning religion every day.
Exactly.
We need to be there for them and provide the basics. So I didn't want to keep on talking about the same things again, over and over again. So I'm just going to summarize all the things that we've been discussing, for the whole community has been discussing for a long time, and just simplify it as much as possible. Like, you had no idea how many times I went back and try to remove stuff that I thought it was fluff, right? I want to make the book as short as possible, to the point as possible.
Yeah, that's true.
And as simple as possible for people with no background in philosophy, no background in, logical, following logical debates. Very simple, just an introductory beginner type. It's funny because some of my negative reviews on Amazon on this book is that it's too simple. I always see those reviews are like, it's supposed to be simple. Simple is in the title. What are you talking about?
That's you can't satisfy everyone's need.
Right.
Some people like it more complicated, more complex.
Well, I know there's books for those people that want. This is supposed to be simple, to the point, introductory book to atheism, and at the end of every chapter, it provides you resources if you want to dive in deeper into that topic, right? It's basically 20 arguments for the existence of God. It rebutes each one of them, 20 of the most common ones. And if somebody wants to, like for example, in the argument that, without God, we can't be moral, there's a simple chapter on that. But if you want to really get into much more detail on morality and stuff like that, it provides resources for you to continue that specific topic, right?
Yes.
So it has all of that. But
it's like an introduction.
Introduction. Yeah. Honestly, I think it's more than enough, because I really think like the topic of not God is a very simple one, right? Like, I honestly don't think I honestly think like people make it more complicated than it needs to be. It's really as simple as, like, we don't have any evidence for all of this stuff, right? Yes. For any of these claims, it's not like, if you want to get into morality and, if you want to get into other discussions about science and evolution and all of that topic by itself is very interesting and nuanced and complicated. But honestly, I think the concept of God is a very childish basic. It wouldn't be this, it has been made complicated for a purpose. It was made complicated. Like, you could make anything.
You can make anything complex. You can write nowadays. You can have theses, like PhD thesis about something stupid in the Islamic law or whatever. A PhD about you go with your right foot or left foot to sleep, or what kind of a stone you can use to do tayammum, whatever. Right.
Like for example, Harry Potter, right? Is it true? Is it a real world or is it a fake world? I mean, that's a pretty simple question, right? But you could make the world of Harry Potter very complex, right? There's a lot of nuance to how the spells work, how the wands work.
You can add to it,
history of every character. There's different locations, the history of those locations, the book. What is this wizard? What books does he have in his shelf? The magical creatures. The history of each one of the species of the magical creatures in Harry Potter. You could fill libraries with that, right? But and it could be very complex. And imagine you have a Harry Potter world that people have been working on making it more and more complex for 1400 years, right? Like
exactly, yeah.
It will become very complex.
It seems like they didn't have anything to do, these guys. Like they had so much time and so many candles, and they kept writing and making things complex. And
yeah, I mean, to be fair, some of them did science and Islamic studies at the same time, right? To be fair to some of them, right?
There wasn't much science involved anyway. So.
No, like like for example, if you went to Baghdad, House of Wisdom and stuff.
Yes.
They were doing like science, but they were also doing religious studies. and math and religion.
It was a package deal in the past. So you're a poet, and at the same time you're a scientist, and you're a...
Yeah. They saw that all just as studies. But the thing is that when it comes to religious studies, I'm just saying that a lot of people think like because it's complex, there must be something to it. You know, like
Yes.
if you go to Al-Zahra University, or if you go to right? And you look at so many books for people wrote for thousands of years discussing every single dot in the Quran, right? There's there's one verb in the Quran that some people have wrote an entire thesis on, right? So they just keep writing and just say like, well, all of this cannot be nothing. All of this cannot be just based on.
It must be important. It must have some merit.
There. Yeah, but then when you look at the world of Star Wars and world of Harry Potter, those are also very complicated worlds, and they haven't even had 100 years to work on it, right? They're true. Extremely, like World of Warcraft is a very complicated, very nuanced.
I agree.
World,
I confirm.
Right? but the fact that they're complicated worlds and they're internally consistent, like this is something you could give credit to Islam and Christianity and Judaism for. The fact that they're all fairy tales is one thing, but within that world, it's internally consistent. Right? And it's logically consistent, right? So, for example, the example I give is like two Harry Potter fans, for example, could come and discuss, they're writing fan fiction, right? Mm-hmm. And they're writing fan fiction, and there's a wizard that casts a spell, and one of the fan fiction writers said like, no, that wand would never be able to cast that spell because it doesn't have dragon tears in it, right?
Yeah.
And they start debating about whether this one can cast a spell or not. But then all of a sudden, if somebody joins this fan fiction club and says, like, my wizards draw out a lightsaber, right? And like, what the hell are you talking about? You're like, that's Star Wars. That's not Harry Potter.
Yeah.
They will kick that guy out, right?
Exactly.
There's some internal logic. There's a consistency between what rules apply to this world or not. And because they have done a very good job at creating some logic internally, people feel like, oh, well, it's all very logical. Well, yeah, within that world, everything is consistent. The illogical part is when somebody suggests that Harry Potter is real.
Exactly. Right? Yes, that's a good point. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So that question, yeah, okay. So if you really want to go into Islamic study, it's very complex. Understanding it is very complex, same as Harry Potter, same as Star Wars. But the question of whether wizards are real, whether Star Wars is real, or whether Islam or Christianity is real, that's a very simple question, I think, right? Yes. And, a lot of people, like, this is why I tell, ex-Muslims and ex-Christians that they shouldn't make it seem like you need to be an expert on Islam to call out Islam as bullshit, right? The reason why I study Islam, again, I'm not an expert, but I do it as a hobby, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are like, oh, Armin thinks he's an expert. I'm like, no, I know more than most people. I mean, it doesn't take much to be more know than
It's not
people.
rocket science.
It's not rocket science. It's just stories, right? Expert is somebody that gets a PhD or something in it, right? But I just do it is because it's interesting. Islamic studies is interesting, just like Harry Potter is interesting, right? Mm-hmm. But a lot of people think like, Armin, you could talk shit about Islam because you've studied it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Do you really need to become an expert to realize that a man can't go get on a horse and fly to the heavens and talk to God, and cut the moon in half without the entire world seeing it? Like, is that you need to be an expert to know these things? No. These are just interesting. That's what, that's just a side thing. Denying Islam as reality is a very simple thing that anybody does. You don't have to be an ex-Muslim. You don't have to be an expert to be able to deny Islam. Honestly, you just have to have some common sense. Okay?
Exactly. Yeah.
But again, I'm not saying it's not worth studying Islam, because studying Islam is studying mythology, right? It's mythology tells us a lot about humanity and the human mind and our history. Studying Islam is interesting and valuable for the same reason that studying Greek mythology is valuable and interesting, right?
Yeah, so it's a part of history. We can't deny it. It happened. and we live among over 1 billion Muslims in the world. So
and practically, okay, I do admit that you don't have to be an expert in Islam to be able to reject it, but practically there's a bonding experience that you could have with Muslims that are passionate about this. And I know a lot of people are like, what the hell are you talking about? I mean, you burned the Quran on camera and you're talking about like bonding with Muslims. Yes, I've even after I burned the Quran on video, I still managed to have fundamentalist Muslim friends, okay? Because they are eager to talk about these things, right? To somebody that it seems that they're passionate about, right? So I, for example, I talk about the story of Muhammad, and I talk about it with passion. And this fundamentalist guy also wants to talk about it with passion. The difference is, I think it's all fake. He thinks it's real, but that discussion with him and me is the fact that I have that knowledge makes us be able to talk about something, and basically it's an opportunity for me at least to have a discussion with Muslims. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
But we have to be careful when we're talking to lay Muslims, like Muslims that are not familiar with the hadith.
Oh yeah.
We shouldn't. I think it's a very ineffective strategy to belittle them for not knowing much, right? Because the best way to fight Islam is to befriend Muslims. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I think the fight against superstition, the fight against Islam, the fight against religion as a whole, is an ideological battle that happens within each person's mind. It's not against a person, it's within a person, right? So because it's not against a person, it's within a person, you have to first get within that person. And to get within that person, you have to make that person lower their guard, right? To make somebody lower their guard, you have to befriend them, right? This is why I think being hostile towards Muslims, it actually promotes Islam, grows Islam, and being friendly to Muslims is beneficial in two ways. First of all, it helps us reach out to Muslims and start that ideological battle within every Muslim rather than fighting against Muslims, right? And also because even if we don't win the ideological battle within one individual, we could win the tolerance battle for atheists. Because if atheists and ex-Muslims befriend Muslims more and more, you might win some of them over, as we have, as I'm sure you have, by the thousands. People are leaving Islam, by the millions, actually. But there's a bigger circle around that of people that are remaining Muslim, but they're saying like, hey, I know maybe atheists are not that bad. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, or maybe ex-Muslims, they're not. It's okay. It's okay to be ex-Muslim.
But is that really the goal? Like, is it our goal to make to make people try to make people leave Islam? I don't think that's the main goal. It's not mine anyway.
It is my second goal. My main goal is to make atheism normal. That's
great. But in regard to Islam, my goal personally is to push people to not take Islam too seriously. Like, you're fine to be a Muslim, you can believe what you want, but don't take your religion too seriously so that you can be a danger to yourself and to your environment. That's my main goal. I don't mind people believing in flying winged horses, because people will believe in weird stuff. It's hard to to convert them to logic. It works, but with a lot of people it doesn't work. People are just the human brain is so flexible. People think all kind of things. So my goal, because I'm a humanist and I care about humanity and I want the best for humans, my goal is always how to make sure that these people are not a danger to themselves and to society. That's my main goal. If I have a Muslim who's friendly, who cares about human beings, who rejects, because these people reject lots of things in Sharia. They're against apostasy, the death penalty, and they're against these things. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. Is it okay with what Islam says? That doesn't concern me. What concerns me is they don't believe in that. They want the best for human beings. Okay, they believe in the splitting of the moon or Muhammad's miracles. Fine, it's okay.
Okay, no, it's okay. That's great. I always prefer disagreements over agreements.
Yeah, me too.
It'll make the conversation a lot more interesting.
Me too. Yes.
Because this is something that I fundamentally disagree with. Okay.
Great.
Which is fun because disagreements. By the way, a lot of people think disagreements is very hostile. I think disagreements is just like playing chess. You play chess with your friends, right? You play, you spar against your friends, right? For fun.
Sure. Yeah, it's fun. It's more fun.
More engaging, yeah. So this is something I fundamentally disagree with, right? For many reasons, and also because I'm a humanist, by the way. And so I'm not saying, I'm not gonna. It might seem at first I'm idealistic, but I'm also gonna say why this is practical, right? So first, the part that's gonna make me seem like I'm just being idealistic. The thing is that when we say to somebody that it's okay to just believe in these things, don't take religion too seriously, okay? First of all, we're telling them something that is logically makes absolutely no sense, okay? If you believe that the Quran is the direct word of God, you're basically arguing that it makes logical sense to not take seriously the words of the creator of everything and every time, right? The creator, your entire existence. And not only that, you're telling people that it makes logical sense to not take seriously your eternal soul, you're burning for eternity or being happy for eternity. You're telling people that it makes logical sense to take that not very seriously, right?
They don't anyway. They don't. Like most Muslims.
I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about what we're telling them, what we're advocating.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
We're advocating something that makes absolutely no sense.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to advocate for something that makes logically no sense. I want to make sure what I'm promoting is logically consistent, right? In fact, this is why I take a fundamentalist more seriously than a reformist, right? Because a fundamentalist logic is consistent. Everything makes sense if their premises are true. The thing is that premises is not true. There is no God, right?
Okay.
But I want to also tackle that with a position that makes consistent, is logically consistent, it logically makes sense. It doesn't fall down on itself. It's very easy for fundamentalists to point out how, logically I'm contradicting what I'm saying, right? But I want to make sure that I'm tackling something that is logically consistent. It makes logical sense internally, at least within their world, with something that makes logically sense in my world, right? Which is in a world without God and superstition. That's one thing. Another thing is that a lot of people say, well, people are always going to be stupid. People are always going to believe in dumb things. The thing is that this is not an all or none game. This is not about making the world atheist tomorrow, right? A society where 10 to 12% of the people in it don't believe in superstition is a much, much better society than, 1 or 2% of the population doesn't believe in God or superstition. Do you know what I mean? So it's not about making the entire world atheist. It's about going after the low-hanging fruit of the people that we can reach and getting the 2% to 10%, right? Even if you still have the majority of the world is believing in superstition, that's incredible progress. Okay, that's incredible progress.
Yeah.
And also, the source of the thing is that throughout history, if you look at the people that you claim are the victories, the people that are living peaceful lives and taking religion seriously, they are not the result of the promotion of taking religion less seriously. People didn't come out and say, hey, this is all true, but let's take it less seriously. And people started taking it less seriously. That never happened. It didn't happen with Christianity. It didn't happen with Islam. It didn't happen with any other religion. What happened was people that actively attacked and challenged that religion, and the people that decided to remain, some of them took it less seriously. So even if your goal is for people to take it less seriously, the source of that increasing were the people that were actively moving against that religion. Nobody came out to if you look at the Christian world and you say like, oh, people are taking Christianity less seriously, it never came from within. Christians didn't say like, yeah, God is real, heaven is real, but let's focus on this world. That never happened. It didn't come from the Bible. It came from the Enlightenment movement, where people actively moved against Christianity and challenged it. Okay,
I agree with everything you said. There is no
I have a lot more response to that.
Yeah, there is no disagreement, but it's based disagreement is based on a misunderstanding. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It's not that I'm telling the Muslim to not take their religion too seriously. That's not I'm telling them. What I do is the opposite. I'm doing what you're saying. Yeah. I'm criticizing Islam. I'm making fun of Islam. I'm putting like sketches and comedies and cartoons and all these things I'm doing. So I'm showing them how ridiculous their religious texts are. That I'm doing all that, but I'm talking about the results I'm hoping for. The results I'm hoping for is that a Muslim, even if he doesn't reject religion, that based on what he sees me doing and others doing, doesn't take religion too seriously, even if he's still a believer, doesn't take religion too seriously to put himself in danger or the world in danger. So
right.
We're talking about just the results.
That is progress, and if we could get that, I always see that as a win, because I always say Islam can never be reformed, but Muslims can be reformed.
I agree.
Okay?
Yes,
and that is progress, but it's not complete though. I do think that a Muslim that doesn't hurt let's say a Muslim that is very, believes in God, believes in Muhammad, right? And he doesn't preach Islam. He goes to the mosque once every week. He prays 5 times a day. He's nice to every person, okay? He hasn't hurt a fly, and he gives to charity, okay? And he hates violence, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That Muslim, I think, if you deny them the alternative, which is atheism, you're doing that person a harm, even that person, right? It's interesting because a lot of people always come to us and say, why are you promoting atheism? Why can't you just let people believe what they want? And I tell them, well, that's exactly what we're doing. If somebody grows up in a religion and they grow in a bubble, and they either don't hear about other options, or the only exposure they have to other options is a biased negative presentation of it, then if you deny them other alternatives for them to choose and pick what they want, what they see as reasonable, or what they want to believe in, then you're actually the person that is not letting them believe what they want. When you come and invite people, when somebody is a Muslim and they are invited to consider Christianity, atheism, Buddhism, Hinduism, or anything else, then that is the only situation where you're letting them believe what they want, because they've been provided multiple options and now they can choose, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think like a lot of people are like, oh, you don't get to decide, they get to decide. I like, it seems like you're deciding. I tell those people, it seems like you're deciding for them, because me and you are not in a position to know or decide for that person. If they were exposed to atheism and all of a sudden they realize that their religion is wrong, whether or not they might have been, they might have been extremely thankful. Let's say that person that is not harming anybody, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden they picked up, started watching one of your videos, and eventually they become an atheist. And now they're so grateful that their eyes have been opened. And they're like, you know what, I was wasting my time in mosque. I could have spent more time with my daughter. Instead of reading the Quran, I could have been reading more useful books or whatever. Maybe they're extremely grateful that now they know this. Maybe not. Maybe they remain Muslim, but let's say they become an atheist. And now they're extremely grateful. If you had denied this person this alternative because I would say, by the way, I'm just going to say this, but I'm not saying you're selfish, okay? But because of our selfish desire to only reach out to people that might harm us, without considering what they might have wanted if they had more options. We are deciding before they have the options and before they've seen other alternatives, what's best for them. Then it seems like these people are deciding for them. All we're doing when it comes to promoting atheism, it's not like we're forcing them to abandon God or anything. It's not like they're seeing our content because we force them to see it or we shove them in their faces. Whenever people see our content, whenever the people read our books, see our videos, see our posts, it's because they came and looked for it. And if they accidentally see it because without wanting to, it's really easy for them to block us, right? Most Muslims and Christians or Jews or Hindus that see our content, it's because they want to. They seeked it. They were curious or they were angry, but they came to us. We didn't go to them, right?
Yeah.
So providing that alternative is very important, even for the people that are harm to no one. And another thing is that our standard should not be, again, our standard should not be, oh, this is causing harm, this groups of nonsense is causing harm, and these group of nonsense is not causing harm, so I'm just going to focus on the nonsense that is causing harm. Because when the problem is that when it comes to people believing in things, the only filter that you could actually introduce to people is the logic filter. I really don't understand the people that say that we should only focus on nonsense that is harmful. What filter are they introducing here after people already passed the gates that was supposed to stop nonsense? I don't know if you know what I mean, but what I'm saying is that...
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, if people can believe in harmless nonsense without evidence, they can as easily believe in harmful nonsense without evidence.
Yeah, there is always a potential. No,
I mean, it's always a potential. I mean, people that don't demand evidence for things that they believe in. Let's say a few things that are completely harmless. Like, let's say belief in, palm reading, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it could be technically harmful if you think about it, but let's say it's like there's no wars, there's no terrorist attacks for palm reading or stuff like that. There's no politicians making economical decisions based on palm reading, okay?
Yeah.
So relatively harmless. Like you could probably come up with an example where it could be harmful, but relatively harmless. Like, it's bullshit. Obviously, it's not true. Palm reading, who can believe in that? But I'm not going to waste my time on it because there's, people are not killing each other for it. Well, the thing is that if you counter somebody that believes in palm reading and you don't try to tackle it and you don't try to, by the way, when I say try, only when they allow it, right? Don't go harass people when they don't want you
Don't
to talk to them, right? Like you always get the green light.
Jihadi atheists.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm actively trying to promote atheism, but I always say that you talk to people that want to be talked to, obviously, right? But you promote it, and when you have the chance and you get the green light that somebody does want to talk about it and they believe in palm reading, you attack that belief system without holding back. Because the person that believes in palm reading without evidence is a gullible person that tomorrow is going to believe that vaccines cause autism, right? The same person, if somebody doesn't have the critical thinking skills to recognize palm reading as bullshit, obviously they also don't have the critical thinking skills to recognize that, vaccines don't cause autism. Like they don't realize how to find credible sources, how to research, how to understand what information is right? So by teaching that person that palm reading is nonsense, you're not just talking about palm reading. You're giving them a bullshit radar, right? You're giving them the tools to attack all forms of nonsense. Right?
I agree with.
If they believe vaccines cause autism, now they're putting their children at risk. So the problem is that there is another filter other than logic filter, but unfortunately we don't have much control over that filter. The secondary filter. So let's say somebody believes in nonsense without evidence. They're gullible, and these are people that could be, even if they're not causing people any harm, they could be used. They're taken advantage of. Even for their sake, we should be trying to help them. These are people that are used. They're conned out of their money. They're used for political means, and at some point, they're going to believe in something that maybe harms themselves or other people, even if they didn't intend to. But where is they getting at? So, wait, I lost my train of thought. Right. So the second filter. So the second filter is well, you say then how come most Muslims are like peaceful and most Muslims don't harm anybody, right? Most Muslims are kind and good people. The reason is the second filter. Even if you pass the first filter doesn't stop you, which is the logic filter. The second filter, it's a natural filter that stops most people, which is sympathy and kindness, right? Most people, don't like seeing their fellow human being in misery and pain, and most people enjoy seeing other people happy, right? And that filter, or even if you believe in nonsense, when you see unfairness, unjust, torture, unkindness to your fellow human beings or for your fellow conscious beings, that stops most people from taking it too far. Most people, not all people, but most people, right? The thing is that the sympathy filter is mostly a natural filter, and mostly like growing up with good parents, kind of like in a calm, loving environment kind of reason. That's not something that you could advocate for that much, right? Like that's not something. Most people are already kind, okay? Most people are already sympathetic and good people. The role that we have. So if you're relying on that, right, for people to be good, then as activists, we don't really have much of a role in that one.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Well, you have a little. People could still be influenced by seeing acts of kindness, right? If you see acts of kindness, it promotes being more kind to your fellow human beings. So you could still do that. Which again, that's why I say it's good to be kind to people you disagree with. Be kind to Muslims. Don't let your fundamental disagreements with people be an excuse to be a dick to other people. So that filter is there. I agree with that. But the main control that you had over people's belief was the logic filter. If you pass that, it's really random where the people will land. You know what I mean? So when you say like, if it's okay if people believe in nonsense as long as they are, as long as they're not harming other people, or as long as they're not harming themselves. Well, I'm telling you, you don't really have much say over where they land once they pass that, once they go through that first filter. You know what I mean?
I agree with everything you said, but
okay.
But I see a disagreement, and it's the approach. I think all roads lead to Rome. You can see that or say that what I do is a passive way to promote atheism as well. Like if you criticize, if you make fun of the Abrahamic God, you make fun of his books, you make fun of the holy texts. That's a passive way to promote atheism. But I'm not doing it intentionally. I'm not promoting atheism. I'm not actively promoting atheism. For me, it's a thing of more or less of priority. I even call these debates about is there a God, does God exist, the debate that the believers love, because they can just put on the deist dress and just argue with you about God's existence, and then we move on from all the bullshit that it's in their religion. A Muslim who debates with you about the existence of God can be, he represents all believers. So we're not talking about the problems in Quran or Hadith. We're talking about, is there a God or not? So I always called it a false debate, because I care about the priority. I care about what's urgent nowadays. What's more urgent? We see terrorist attacks. We see lots of issues with Islam, especially. So I have to deal with these problems. So when I criticize religion, when I criticize Islam mainly, and Muslims, I get even messages from Muslims who tell me, I couldn't watch the stuff that you do because it's too much. You're making fun of my religion. But now I got used to it. I'm still a Muslim, but I laugh sometimes. So I think someone who can laugh about his religion cannot kill himself for it. That's how I see it. You can't kill yourself. You can't become a suicide bomber if you can laugh about jokes about your religion. So for me, it's just a priority thing. We have to deal with that first. Because promoting atheism, trying to convince someone that there's no God, yes, it's effective. But what's the battle that we need to lead now? It's the battle of getting people to believe in religion. It's fine, that's okay, but not endangering themselves and the society.
But you kind of just said what I was also agreeing to, because so you are basically promoting atheism.
Not intentionally, like passively.
No. But what I'm saying is that the side effect. That's exactly what I'm saying, though.
It's a byproduct. Okay?
Yeah, that's my point. That's my entire point. By the smaller circle, we promote atheism, and I don't see anything wrong with promoting atheism, right?
I don't see
like, oh, you're just like Muslims promoting Islam. I'm like, yeah, Muslims should be able to promote Islam, and the problem is not that they're promoting Islam. The problem is that we don't usually get to respond, right? Yeah. In most countries, right? And we should be able to. Christians could promote their Christianity, Muslims could promote their Islam, and atheists should be able to promote atheism, and may the best ideas win, right?
Exactly.
But you're making exactly my point. The side effect of promoting atheism is the bigger result, which is the bigger win. So when we promote atheism, we get some people leave their religion. And when I say some, it's a big number. But the bigger number, the bigger win when we promote atheism is not actually atheism, is tolerance of atheists. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I started I said that's the main goal. In fact, people becoming atheists, it becomes the side product, which is a bigger win, but it's a side product, because the main win is the bigger win, this long, right now, is in number wise, is people that are just like, okay, I guess atheists are not, devils or something like that, right?
Yes.
So, but we achieve that now, and we have been achieving that historically by attacking religion, not by like you are doing. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not by saying like, hey, Muslims, it's okay, be Muslim, but please chill. No,
No.
that's not how it works. We get that chill effect by going at the heart of. Here's the thing: a lot of people are like, oh, the more extreme cost right now is these situations, Islam and everything, Islamic terrorist attacks and stuff. So that's the main problem, right? But all the you even if that's the main problem, which is not, by the way, I'll tell you what the main cost of religion is. But you, even if that's your focus, you could still get at that by going to the core. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Religion, superstition in general is like, it's like that beast in ancient Greece, Hydra.
Yeah.
Where you cut one of his heads. Right?
Yeah.
So if you have like superstition at your base, Islam could grow. Something else could grow out of it. If you cut out the head, something else keeps growing, right? It grows really fast. If you go to the core, if you teach children critical thinking skills, if you tell people whatever their superstition is, whether it's Islam, whether it's just God, whether it's palm reading, if you just show them that, why is it wrong? So they could use the skill. See, God, for us, attacking God is an excuse to teaching people why God is not real is an excuse to show them why everything without evidence, any belief without evidence is made. God is just the most popular belief without evidence. Okay, that's why we go at God. But a lot of atheists either lost their belief in God not because of critical thinking skills. It's just maybe emotional, or some people was because of critical thinking, but then they stopped. Now they believe in another form of nonsense. We want to, for us, when we attack a superstition, is to take the skills that you took from realizing why something is, like, atheists should realize that this was something I believed on all my life, and it seems to be all nonsense. But you have to realize that you probably still believe in some things that there's no evidence for.
Yeah, for sure.
What are the chances that God was the last thing that I believed in that there's no evidence for? Very unlikely. So I should still go hunting.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, it takes some effort, personal effort.
So when it comes to a Muslim and somebody that stays a Muslim, when you go after Islam and you point out why Islam is wrong, this is why I always say doubt over reform. And this goes exactly to the point that you're making. If you could create a tiny seed of doubt, if you could just plant it there, okay, that's enough. Even if this person dies a Muslim, nobody is going to sacrifice 100% of their time and energy and life to something that they're only 99% sure about. Okay,
that's true.
But the important thing for going with doubt rather than reforming Islam and telling people, oh, this religion is actually peaceful, loving, it could be something else, please follow this version of this religion rather than other, is that is logically consistent. It makes logical sense because you haven't lied to people, right? You didn't go tell people, hey, this verse that tells you to beat your wife, it actually means go tickle your wife, okay?
Yeah.
No, it means, but you didn't lie, you're not lying to people. You're not replacing one religion with another religion. You're still going with atheism, okay? They might not take your atheism, but it'll just fracture it a little bit, okay? And that tiny little bit of fracture is all you need. All you need.
Yes, you put the seed in and then just let it grow. I mean, that's all you can do. You can't be a support for a billion people. Internet is the savior, because nowadays we have internet, we have the media. You have ways to reach thousands, probably hundreds of thousands, millions of people, but just putting a video, and this video can have a huge effect on people. They watch it, right. They think about it, and probably the lives change after that video. It's just a simple video. You didn't even care about the video, probably. So to go back to the point, I think criticizing religion is always a good first step, because when you criticize religion, the byproducts are always great, because this human being will probably not take religion seriously, probably just the first period, and then it goes to probably leaving religion. And people who leave religion, most of the time they become atheists. I know from my experience, most ex-Muslims became atheists. There's a percentage of them who became Christians or something else, but right. Most of them, like the majority of them, became atheists. So atheism was a byproduct of criticizing religion, which leads at the same time to be more rational, to learn the critical thinking that's necessary.
Right.
But it comes with rejecting religion. So I'm rejecting the superstition. I'm rejecting the God and whatever it was taught, the ghosts, demons, whatever. And now I'm trying to be more scientific. I'm trying to look for evidence. Because science is the only rational tool that we can use to know about the world. So right. So science it's not replacing religion, but it's the greatest tool ever that human beings created to learn about reality. I think criticizing religion is very important. Even if I'm not intentionally promoting atheism, criticizing religion is gonna cause this. It's gonna give me right. this byproduct of people rejecting God and living with.
What is the problem with promoting atheism?
Like I said, it's for me, it's just a priority thing. Like I don't think that's necessary to tell someone to focus on the idea of God exists or not, because I think it's also counterproductive, because you give the apologetics, you give them room to exploit exploit the believers, because they will just talk in general about God and then use.
But that's not how it happens. Most people, like if you look at a lot of people that have abandoned religion, a lot of them was because of the idea of, the apologetics their audience is a very fringe minority, right? Most people that start looking into chasing whether there's an evidence for God end up, either doubting it or completely abandoning it. It has been, based on my experience, going at God himself has been a very effective way of making people abandon religion. It's in fact the most effective way.
Yeah, so
I don't know how
I think it's subjective. I think the way how I see it is, a scholar, an Islamic scholar, would have an easy time talking about the existence of God than talking about slavery in Islam.
Then let them do. Okay, that's a great example, because this is what I want them to do. See, when I go and say Islam promotes slavery, okay, and a Muslim that has never researched any of these things, you think, the apologetics has a lot of explanations for this. I'm like, that's great. Tell this layman Muslim what the explanations are, right?
Exactly.
And I know they have a lot of things to say. And I just want the layman, the average Muslim, to just sit there and listen to the scholar an average Muslim that had never knew that Islam promotes slavery.
Exactly.
Just watch this scholar come up with excuses for slavery.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
So that's all. That's a good thing, dude, because they were like, what the hell? Like, even in their mind, they're like trying to find, because they love their Islam so much, they're trying to come up with excuses for why whatever this is okay. At the end of the day, there's something that it's not makes them uncomfortable about this whole idea of Islam and slavery being together, right? Because they never even expected that. Now they're coming up with excuses, but there's something there that is like, what the hell's going on, right? So even when it comes to God, like most people, when they see this, the idea of Jesus and, Allah, okay, It's supposed to be self-explanatory. It's supposed to be, just Jesus loves you. God obviously created the universe. But when you see scholars just doing all these gymnastic arguments and coming up with arguments that most of these people, like when they've been listening to, they have no idea. They keep on playing with words. They're playing word games, right? And a lot of these people can't even follow. What they come out of these arguments, if they could follow, and even if whether they could follow or not follow, they see that this is, at least it's a debate, right? Mm-hmm. It's not just a slam dunk argument. Yes, of course, God. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's like, there's a one, university professor at that side arguing against Jesus's resurrection or Jesus being real, and there's another, guy on the other side, a Christian scholar on that side, saying why Jesus is real. So at least it's a debate. Like, it's not, it's not something, even if I think it's all fake, but even if you come up with that argument, even if you think your side won and he completely destroyed the other side, you could still see that this is not something that is a given. For somebody, you had somebody that assumed that this was just a given, and now they could see that there's an event with thousands of people showing up. There must be a debate around this topic. So still, I think,
but
still that is a win. That is a win, and
it's a win. But you're still giving a free pass to God proponents.
How opposed to what? Not
as opposed to, because you're giving this guy the opportunity to speak on behalf of a wider.
I want them to. Good.
Yeah, but it's you're not cornering the guy. You're just giving him a free pass. He can. Good. The guy can talk about a God that he doesn't even believe in.
Good. Let them. The more they make this a conversation, the better. This needs to become a popular conversation.
No, that's fine. I agree with that. But I mean, if you want to criticize,
I think this backfires on them. Okay. Right now, I'm seeing Muslims finally taking atheism as a threat, because the traditional ideological enemies were Christians. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. And now atheism is growing so much that they're now putting anti-atheism classes on how to respond to atheism.
Oh yeah, I see that. Yeah.
So that to
a
me,
lot of content on YouTube. Yeah, but
to me, they have courses and they're giving degrees on that. So to me, that's a sign that we must be growing as a threat to Islam, that they're preparing for us. But I want them to have those courses. I want them to produce lectures on how to confront atheists, because I want Muslims to be encouraged to come talk to atheists. Do you know what I mean? The more they're confident that they could respond to atheists, the more conversations we're going to have between Muslims and atheists.
Yeah, I agree. But there is one thing that we forget about, and it's from my experience too, is these guys who now anti-atheists and put lots of videos every day and have schools to teach how to, that's all good, but these guys, they avoid discussing Islam, and they do it on purpose. They want the war to be atheists versus Islam, but it's not.
That's fine. Okay, that's fine, because I want them to introduce their audience to our existence.
No, they do. Well, I think it's already the case. It's already the case.
They're doing our job for us technically, even if they're talking bad against us, even if they don't address the problems within Islam, even they constantly talk about why atheism is ridiculous. I want them to do that. I want them for atheism to become highlighted. I want them to make other Muslims curious about atheism. Let me tell you about something I saw in Tel Aviv. Okay, mm-hmm. I was in Israel, and I went to this extremely religious part of the city.
They let you in?
Yeah, but they give us bad looks because they don't like people with secular clothing going there, right? Oh, you mean Israel?
Yes.
Or that part of the city?
Both.
Okay. Yeah, I have a Canadian passport, so I was.
Yeah, no, I figured.
So, getting into Israel was easy. Getting to that part of the city, that's that was
the
easy
difficult
too.
part. Okay.
But here, let me tell you. Okay, that part of the city is once you go from the rest of Tel Aviv to that part of the city, you feel like you went like a couple of years back, right? These people, they don't have internet, right? So they mostly communicate with street posters, about the next event or the next gathering, or something bad that has happened, or God's like, for example, one poster was about that our guide was translating for us, was about this woman that was in a car accident, and clearly just recently in their neighborhood, and clearly God is punishing them for something that these other women did, right? Something like that. And this was a poster about like reminding people about moral lessons and blah, 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 blah. Like it's a very aggressive tone, right? But she pointed out to us there was these other posters that they had put up that was made to look that it was put up by religious people, but there was these atheists, Israelis that had came into the neighborhood and they put them there, right? And if you read that poster, it seems like it's a very religious, anti-feminist poster, right? And the whole poster was about, these stupid feminists wanting women rights, something around those tones, right? Like these women, they're wanting this, and obviously they're cursed or whatever, right? But the whole point of that poster was to let women know in that neighborhood that there are women out there demanding rights, right? Because they don't know that such a thing even exists.
So it's counterproductive.
Yeah. So the poster was an excuse, like was acting like it's a religious poster, right? But it was put up and condemning women's rights. But it was actually put up by atheists, showing women in that neighborhood that there are people there are women out there that demanding rights, right?
That's a great way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a sneaky way of trying to get that in. So that's why I'm saying, let Muslims talk about atheism. Let them condemn us. Let them ridicule us. Let them attack us. Well, verbally, please, not physically.
Yeah.
And we will welcome it. We will welcome it and let them feel encouraged to have come. In fact, I also said, if I have a debate with a Muslim on a stage or somewhere, if that debate, if we come out of debate and people feel like the atheist, like not me, I ain't an atheist, destroyed the Muslim, embarrassed him in front of the entire audience, right? That happens, I feel like that would be a failure for us, because that would discourage more events like that, right? I want the Muslims to have common panels, have debates with atheists, and feel like that was good, like that they came out, like they performed well, right? So that they're like, let's do this more often, right? Yeah. Because I want the people that follow them to come and watch them debating atheists more.
Isn't it
the other side?
And I see what you're saying, and I tend to agree with most of it. And but don't you think that we're playing their game, like they're trying to make atheism like a religion, and we're now having Islam versus the religion of atheism. And look, these atheists who are promoting atheism, even though atheism is nothing, is just not believing in metaphysical being. But these atheists, look, they have their organization, they have their people, they care about atheism, they have their preaching atheism. It's just a religion. It's like, and now Islam is the religion of truth, and now we're having Islam, the real religion, versus the wrong religion, the Satan religion of atheism. Isn't that
I mean,
you're playing their game.
They say that already. They have been saying that for a very long time.
But they're saying it now more and more. Like even the Arab.
I want them to say that. Yeah. I want them to say that. First of all, when they say atheism is a religion, and if that's an insult, I like that as an insult because they're admitting that religion is a problem, right? Like so they say, "Oh, atheism is just a religion." All right, okay, so a religion is a problem. Good, we agree. Another thing is that obviously it's ridiculous because if promoting something makes it a religion, then promoting human rights, we promote human rights. Does that make human rights a religion?
Well, to some, yes. To some, yes.
No, it's not a religion. Okay?
No, to some believers. That's
that's nonsense. I mean,
of course, it's nonsense.
Yeah, but we can't just because they use a nonsense narrative, that doesn't mean we should stop doing it. Right?
No, not us.
Let me address everything you just said, right? Yeah. So because instead of just being like instead of being worried about doing things that makes them say nonsensical things, we should just continue doing those things and respond to the nonsense. Okay. So when they say atheism is a religion because it's promoting itself, that makes Starbucks a religion. That makes my tennis club a religion. That makes keto diets a religion because they're promoting it. Everything becomes almost a religion. If they say they're a religion because you're becoming organized, I mean, so religions now have a monopoly over getting organized. So does that make Amnesty International a religion? Does that make every country a religion? A country has an internal structure.
No, but their goal. Their goal is.
I know, but let me address all these points, right? Yeah. So first of all, atheism is not becoming organized. It's atheist activism that is becoming organized. Atheism itself is just a lack of belief in God and nothing else. Exactly. Atheist activism is something more than just atheism. Okay, atheist activism is about atheist rights, right? And the difference is a very important one. Gay rights activism and being gay are completely different, right? Mm-hmm. You could be a gay rights activist and not be gay. You could be a straight person that is a gay rights activist, right? Yep. Just because you're gay doesn't mean you're a gay rights activist, right? Mm-hmm. So again, atheism is a religion. At least put the target right. The target should be atheist activism, not atheism. Atheism is just lack of belief in God and nothing else. But atheist activism is separate from atheism. Atheist activism, you could be an atheist that is not part of atheist activism. You could be like, I don't believe in God, but I don't give a shit, right? You just live your life, you don't care, but you're not an atheist activist. But you could be a Muslim or a Christian and still be part of the atheist activism. How? How could you be a Christian and part of atheist activism? You could be a Muslim that says, I'm a Muslim, but I think it's absolutely insane that atheists are being killed and discriminated against and oppressed. And even though I disagree with people, I want to speak out against this mistreatment of atheists. Or you could be a Christian that says that. So now you're a Christian that isn't part of the atheist right activism movement. So in that case, so let's be clear what we're talking about. We're talking about atheist rights activism, right? So again, atheist right activism is just because it's organized, just because we're getting together, just because we're creating communities. Again, because you're creating community. Oh, now it's like a church. Now you're raising money for doing activism. Oh, now it's like a pass on the plate. It's like a church. Okay, congratulations. Now you give the monopoly over charity, the monopoly over community, the monopoly over organization, the monopoly over getting together and getting anything done. Now that you just gave it all to religion. You're basically atheists that are mouthpieces of religion. You're telling people the only way to do these things is through religion. This is exactly what religions want you to believe. Mm-hmm. That the only way to get things done, the only way to provide community, the only way to provide support is through religion. If you do it anywhere else, now that's a religion. It's horseshit. It's absolute horseshit. Based on the standards that these people have over what they call a religion, my study group in university becomes a religion. Guess what? We got together and we were organized and we got shit done. Is that a religion now? There's a very, I have seen many different definitions for religion, but the most simple and the most inclusive definition I've seen is one that I took, I forgot the professor's name, but he gave basically two things for something to be a religion or not. Two elements. There needs to be just two elements and makes it a religion. And anything else, how people, oh, now this is a religion, they're just it's just horseshit. It needs to have rituals and belief in superstition. If he has one of these things, it's not a religion. If he has both, it's a religion.
That's a good definition.
Yeah, just these two. That's all you need: rituals and belief in superstition. The reason why believing in palm reading, is not really a religion because it doesn't have a lot of rituals that it builds a community around, right? Like it needs to have sophisticated rituals. It has some rituals, but not much, right? The stronger the ritual is, the stronger the superstition. Again, like communism, communism is dogma. It's a form of religion. No, it doesn't really have belief in superstition. Not really a religion, right?
We know that. We know that it's bullshit, right? And I think even them, they know that. Like but they have a goal when they say it. They have
a goal. We address their goal. We don't stop doing what we want to do because of what their counters. We just address their counters when they come. And I want to equip people with one counter because this is the number one thing that people say, oh, atheism is... Why do you have to be... you guys don't believe in something. Why do you have to create a community over something you don't believe in, right? This is something that even somebody as big as Neil deGrasse Tyson said. He said he doesn't like to call himself an atheist because he doesn't want to define himself based on something that he's not, right? And he also said something like, I love Neil deGrasse Tyson, but this one, he was absolutely insane what he said, I think, in my opinion. Because he also said that he doesn't like things that end with isms, right? Isms. I'm like, okay, really, Neil? What about skepticism? You don't like that? What about, ists? You're a scientist, aren't you? Right? Like, I don't know. It's just people are allergic to labels for some reason. But the response I have to that, the example they gave is like, look, I don't like playing golf. I don't go around telling people I'm a non-golfer, right? And this is my response to that. I'm like, that would be insane to go tell people you wear a non-golfer label, and create a non-golfer community, right? That would be insane, right?
Yeah.
Unless we lived in a world where golfers all of a sudden got together and decided that golfing is the superior sport and everybody should be playing golf and all other sports are evil. And somehow they gained power and they made golfing tax exempt and they made learning golf in school mandatory and they made wearing golfing attire everywhere mandatory and they made, learning other sports illegal. If we lived in that kind of a world
and killing non-golfers
making policies based on golf, investing a lot of taxpayer money on building golf, turning all the forests into golfing parks and everything. What do they call it? Yeah. But if they kept on doing that, then in that world, maybe non-golfers should get together and call themselves non-golfers.
That's an amazing analogy. I like it. I like it a lot.
Community.
Yeah, they're making laws based on golf.
Right.
Our whole lives dominated by golf.
Right. Yeah. So in that world, then I would call myself a non-golfer. But the whole point of calling yourself a non-golfer and becoming a non-golfer activist is to one day hope for a world where you don't have to call yourself a non-golfer. You know what I mean? That non-golfing activism becomes irrelevant. The point is to get there, but we're not there.
Yeah. And golf is very mild. Like if you compare it to what religion teaches, it's very mild. I use that example because that's the example they give to us. Like, atheist community. You're building a community based on what you don't believe in? Yes, because they're targeting us based on what they don't believe in. So because they made us the target, that's why we have to get together.
That's why we have to find each other.
No, of course,
That's
of
why
course.
we have to
of course.
protect each other.
We need these communities.
That's why we have to support each other. That's why we have to find ways to recognize each other.
Yeah.
Of course,
I
we
agree
have
100%. I agree 100%. I'm still thinking about golf, like a kid who learns, if the parents force the kid to learn golf and play golf, that's not too bad, even if the kid doesn't like golf. But if they force him to believe in ghosts and hell and punishment, and that's very bad. That's
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's different degrees of harm. I'm not
yes.
denying that. But what I'm saying is that, you know, a parent, okay, that's a good example. You're like, teaching your children stuff, maybe, like, but golfing might be useful. I don't know. Like, let's say that your parents is teaching your kids something that is wasting your time and resources, right? That is not useful at all, but it's not harmful, right? But I'm just saying that is already harmful. That is still harmful because these are prime years for a kid, right? Let's say your parents is teaching you to memorize the Quran, right?
Oh yeah.
But they're not a jihadist. These are not a jihadist family. They are not violent. They hate terrorism. They advocate peace all the time. Okay, Muslim family that is not jihadist. Okay, you're like, well, I don't care. They're just teaching their kid to memorize the Quran. They're very loving people. They don't even really read the Quran. They're just memorizing the recitation. There's no harm in that. There's a lot of harm in that. Do you know how important these years are for learning? You know how much waste of time and resources is being memorizing the Quran? You know how many important skills? You know how every single year that a kid could learn during childhood, that it takes them 5 or 10 years to learn when they're adults? Right? You know how important these years are?
You never know.
Of course this is harmful. This is such a waste of time and energy.
What about if the kid grows up to become an atheist and then debates theists about Quran? So it could be a great show.
There's a lot of whatabouts, but I'm just saying on average.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. So I asked you, the first question was about you, like, but can you tell us more about?
Okay, I'm going to tell you one thing about me.
Yes,
that will make my point clear. Okay, because
please,
I don't know what I don't know what to talk about me unless I get specific questions, right?
Yeah, your deconversion.
Yeah, that's another entire episode, right?
Yeah.
But I will tell you something about my childhood that is relevant to everything we just said.
Great.
Okay. And you might have already know the story, but I'll tell you. I'll say it for your audience.
Sure.
Okay. So when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I was really, really, really obsessed with the idea of hell. Okay. I was living in an Islamic country, but I was living in an environment where most people were liberal, like my surrounding, my school, my parents. Most people didn't take religion too seriously. Okay. And as a kid, I could not understand that. As soon as I learned about hell, I was worried about myself. I was worried about my parents. My parents never prayed. They drank alcohol. The only time they saw inside a mosque was when somebody died or when somebody was getting married. And I thought my parents are going to go to hell. And I was worried also about myself going to hell. And I couldn't understand why nobody else was worried. Right?
Yeah. It's the word of God. He's telling us you're going to go to hell.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking, like, it seemed everybody around us, like, they worried about their grades, their career, their car that they were buying, the clothes that they were going to be wearing at this next party, whether the couch that they bought was matching the colors of the curtain. And these are people that if you actually ask them if they believe in hell, they would tell you yes. And I'm like, so you're saying to me that there's a potential that we'll be screaming in pain forever and ever and ever, and you are not doing, I don't see any of you trying that hard to avoid going there. And I could not understand that because I was terrified, right? There's something else that we learn, and every time I say this, there's some Muslims that say like, "Oh, this is not how we learned it in my Islam. This is not Islamic." I'm like, okay, that's not how you learned it. This is how we learned it. Okay, I understand your interpretation was different. this is, I have to always make that clear, because like Armin is saying a false version of Islam. This is mostly Sunnis, right?
False.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this is a false version of Islam. This is Iran's Islam. This is bullshit. Like, okay, whatever. Okay,
no, it's hell. It's not Iran's version of Islam.
No, what I'm about to say.
Okay. Hell is universal.
No, the hell part is universal. This part, and I'm going to say it's not universal.
Okay, go ahead.
So the part that is not universal is this. Well, some of it is universal. The details are not universal. So, in Christianity, you're born with sin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Islam is not like that. Islam is like,
yes.
Obviously, baby cannot be sinful. Baby doesn't have a chance to sin. A baby is pure. It's ma'asum, right?
Yeah.
You have to. The only way you can be responsible for your sins is that if you hit the age of reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And only then your sins and your sawab, right, your good deeds,
Count.
Gunah and sawab, they start counting,
mm-hmm.
right? Which makes more sense, I guess, than Christianity, right?
Yeah.
So this part, I think, is also the same with other Muslims, but the part that is different is that in Iran, they had specific ages for the age of reason. Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Other parts of Islam, they might have not specific ages.
Yeah, you have the age thing, but I think even though it's positive though, I see it more in a positive light, like more than the Sunni version.
Right. So in Iran, they say that the age of reason for girls is 9 and for boys is 15. Right. And I think the way I'm not sure, the way they came up with that number is that these are also the ages of marriage.
Exactly. It's Aisha,
right?
I think. Yeah.
Right. So I think they came up with the idea of like, well, you can age of marriage should also be the age of consent. Well, age of consent must mean that you're already mature enough to consent. So these must be the age of reason, right? So 9 for girls, 15 for boys. I didn't know this at that time that this was the reason, and I now suspect that that's the reason. I'm not sure.
Should be
but
6.
All
actually,
I knew was that 9 and 15. 9 was irrelevant to me. I focused on the 15. So for me, that meant that there's no sin before age 15. Right? So that means whatever I do before age 15, whatever I do, it doesn't count as a sin.
It's a freebie.
Right. Suicide is a sin in Islam, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But I also learned that there's no sin before age 15.
Oh my gosh.
So that means there's no sin for suicide before age 15.
I don't want to connect the dots.
What happens so I asked myself, what happens to somebody that dies that hasn't committed any sins? There's only 2 destinations, heaven and hell. So obviously you're going to go to heaven, right?
Yes.
So I went to my religious teacher and I asked him, why wouldn't I just kill myself and make sure that I avoid going to hell? And he told me that because if you die as a child, then you haven't earned heaven, so you go to the lowest part of heaven. So apparently, like, heaven has many layers. I think 7.
Yes, has many layers.
So the top part is where Muhammad is, and that's where
martyrs
go.
And prophets, go, right? And yes,
right.
VIP
the lowest
section.
part apparently is where people that died as children, right?
Anyone can go to the lowest part.
Yeah, but apparently I will go there if I die as a child, right? Because I didn't really earn heaven. And he said, why wouldn't you just be a good Muslim?
I don't know about this, actually, but maybe you have some text that supports it.
Well, I mean, they come up with what makes logical sense, right, to them, right? They're like, why would you go to any higher part of heaven?
It's logical Shia thinking.
Yeah. No, like why would you go to the second lowest part where you didn't even get the chance to do anything? You have zero sin.
It's better than
It's
better than the Christian version where you go in the pre hell, like you go in between.
Right. So that's what I was working with, right? So whatever the other Muslims believe in, this is what I had, right? So when he told me like it's better to live a good Muslim and go to a better part of heaven. You earn heaven, right? And I went out of that meeting and I'm like, I don't give a fuck which part of heaven I go to.
I just want to go to.
I just don't want to burn. I actually lit a match and I put it on my arm to see how much it hurts, right?
Yeah.
And then I imagined that for 1 year. I actually imagined it for 10 minutes. Then and then like hours. then 1 year, all over my body. I was like, it's impossible. Nobody could tolerate this. Nobody could tolerate this. Why would I gamble? Why would I gamble? It's burning for thousands of years in hell. It's just because I could get a better part of heaven. Who would make such a gamble? It makes absolutely no sense. I was wondering why more people aren't. I thought I found a loophole in the system. Right? Why are people not taking advantage of this?
Yes,
That's
some good logical thinking.
So I jumped out of the window in my school.
Oh.
I broke my left hand. I broke both my legs. I fractured my back, almost cut my spine. I was in a wheelchair and my bed for around 7 months.
That's insane. Right?
The only reason why I didn't try it again is because I saw what it did to my parents. It destroyed them. I saw my dad cry for the first time. I saw my mom come to the hospital and just collapse on the ground. And I just felt so bad about what I did to them. So I didn't try it again. Honestly, if I saw myself, today from back then, I would have tried it a million times, because if I saw I was going to become an atheist, because I didn't want to go to hell. But what I did seems ridiculous, but it makes logical sense if the premises were true. Exactly. It's completely logical within the theology. Right. It makes sense. So this is my problem with superstition, okay? Is because if you give people bad premises, the only way to get good results out of bad premises is with bad logic. Because bad premises with good logic gives you bad conclusions. Yes. Right? Yeah. So if you want to keep the bad premises, then the only way you could promote good results is by promoting bad logic. Yes. Right? Mm-hmm. So this is why I go at the core. I go at the premises. I don't wait for them to become harmful. Mm-hmm. Bad premises are fertile ground for harmful conclusions. That's an amazing way to say it, and I agree with that 100%. It reminds me of some talks I have with Muslims, not ex-Muslim, apologetics, where the discussion, like they offer you a rational, academic, like good discussion. So I'm excited and I'm waiting for let's go, and then they start the discussion with demons, and then I'm like, what? I'm demons. How can you have a discussion and the first part is about demons and about black magic and about how can you rationalize these things? Yeah. People who really think that there are demons and there are metaphysical beings and miracles and punishment in the grave, and you have an angel who writes your bad deed on the left and an angel who writes your good deed on the right, and someone like a hidden camera in the sky watching you 24/7. How can you use logic to discuss, how? So to go back to the point of the existence of God, they actually love. I don't know if it's gonna fire back. I'm sure you think it's gonna fire back on them, because they seek refuge in discussing broader ideas, like to go, yeah, but the Big Bang, even if you believe in the Big Bang, it has a beginning, and they talk about deism. They talk about a cause of the universe. So they don't want to deal with inconsistencies. They don't want to deal with problems within their religion. It's fine, because the reason why I think it's fine is whatever they want to have more conversations about, I think because we have logic on our side, the net effect of more conversations is to get more people coming out of nonsense, whatever the conversation is, right? So I think when people say, oh, they're distracting us from this to that or that to this, I let them do whatever they want as long as they're having more conversations with us, okay? We can focus on, I get this point. And I think, they, at the end of the day, they are making nonsense points. And we know that the logic leads away from So we only need to expose people to more conversation. That's our responsibility. We don't really have to control exactly what conversations are being had. We can't have that control on our platform. We can't really control that outside of our platform, and we shouldn't want to control them. As we should just welcome more conversations. That's
the simple fact that we have these debates, we have this conversation. It's a win already.
Yes.
It reminds me of a debate I had with some of them. One big proponent of anti-atheism, and the guy was funny actually when we were preparing. What topic we're gonna discuss. So I said, okay, look, I criticize Islam. So you choose a topic, and I'm gonna go for it. No, it needs to be an Islamic topic, like within Islam. And he said, okay, we can talk about jihad. I said, yeah, great, let's talk about jihad. And then he said, yeah, but I need to attack you too. I was like, what? And he said, yeah, jihad, but give me something so I can attack you. I said, yeah, but you're defending your religion. I'm saying something about your religion. The fact that you're defending it, it's good for itself. He said, no, I need something. Well, I said, I'm an agnostic atheist. And I said, okay, let's make it jihad and agnosticism. And I was like, sounds weird, but let's go for it. And then people, when they criticized me for the topic. He said, jihad, and he's going to talk about this. I said, look, it's already a win. The fact that some Muslims, they don't even know the stuff we're going to discuss about jihad. They have no idea. So the fact that they're going to hear it, probably for the first time, is already a win. I'm winning before the debate starts.
Right.
Yeah, and that it goes for other topics too. It goes
right. By the way, another thing I want to point out is that a lot of people, when they think about the cost of religion, they think about terrorist attacks, jihad, explosions, war, right? And those are the costs of religion. Not that obviously it will still happen with that religion, but it happens more with religion, obviously, right? Yeah. So religion is a catalyst. But the main cost of religion is a lot more subtle.
That's true. Yes.
And less newsworthy and less interesting for it to show up on your evening news. The thing is that, yes, terrorist attack, it's a tragedy and a lot of people suffer from it, especially in Islamic countries, because even when it comes to violence, people mostly focus on terrorist attacks in Western countries where more people are being killed by terrorist attacks in Iraq and Syria and other places, right, in Yemen. So there's already a bias there, but even after that, there is, the amount of misery and harm that is done day to day by religion, small little ways that is affecting people's life, and even big ways that is not very interesting to people. Like, let's just say, Erdogan decides to just, go against interest rates because of Islam, right? The impact that might have on the economy on Turkey, and the number of people that's going to affect, the number of, the wealth of people, the amount of buying ability, the poverty that might affect. Or when in Philippines, a very Catholic country, that is suffering from extreme poverty and overpopulation, when they hear the Pope says that condoms are bad.
Oh, yeah. In Africa too.
Right, yeah. And the number, the amount of poverty that continues to encourage, or the number of people that are not with each other, the people that love each other are not with each other, or the amount of gay people that are there that are ashamed of who they are, that are disgusted by who they are, right?
Women.
The number of people that are abandoned by their family, tortured by their family, the number of the economical cost, the political cost, the cost of progress. People feel like, oh, you think economical cost is more important than lives? Well, economical cost is important because of lives. This, a slowdown in progress is a slowdown in fighting disease. A slowdown in progress is a slowing down in fighting, ways to fight cancer, ways to, have more clean water to more people, more ways to get food to a higher number of people, more, the shifting resources from places that makes more sense to makes less sense. These things affect people's lives on a much, much higher scale than terrorist attacks. And even war, the cost of war to people is a lot more after than even during the war. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
like the economical cost. And again, people think like when I say economical cost, I'm valuing money more than people's lives. No, this is indirectly costs lives, right? Mm-hmm. Like people don't understand when you bring like clean water or mosquito nets to somewhere, or where you just give glasses to kids that can't see in a class. They don't understand how much this impacts the country as a whole. Yeah. Small little things like that, bad small decisions. If these decisions are made based on politicians already make really bad decisions. Imagine adding to that decisions that is made based on divine revelation, based on their religious beliefs. That's going to make it all a lot worse. So I'm just saying, religion fucks with our lives in a lot more ways than just suicide attacks.
Yeah, and the psychological impact as well on a personal level. Like you have this, the life of a Muslim, especially a Muslim woman, in an Islamic environment. It's terrible. Like
but at the end of the day, the claim is a very simple. A lot of people are like, oh no, you don't know what you're saying.
I know what I'm saying.
No, I know what you're saying, but I know me and you agree. But like, I'm just thinking about a Muslim listening to this, right? As they claim, this is not the very extraordinary claim, right? What I'm saying is as basic and simple as this: the more decisions are based on beliefs that matches reality closer, the better our decisions are to making our lives and our society better for everyone.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Very simple claim.
Yep.
And this is why our fight is fighting for the truth. This is again why we want to go to the core, right? We are against nonsense in all its shapes and forms. Yeah. And we don't wait for nonsense to become harmful. Harmful nonsense was harmless nonsense before it became harmful. It's too late if you already allow nonsense. This is why we go after bullshit, we call it out wherever we see it, and we try to destroy it wherever we see it. Whether it's Islam, Christianity,
any religion,
Buddhism, Hinduism, or any other superstition. So.
Yeah, we have a few minutes left. I would love to have your opinion about what this whole movement, especially from the leftists, who are trying hard to be the big brother of Muslims, to defend Islam at whatever price. And why do you think we have this whole movement now with the hijab, with the
the left traditionally
in Canada too, actually, not only in the US, in Canada and in the US, both.
Right. So the left has traditionally been so let's make what I want to be careful about, not call it the leftist movement, because just like a lot of people demonize all of the right because of some people on the right, I think we have to make sure that we don't go after all of the left because of some people on the left.
Right.
So there's a lot of good ideas from the right and a lot of good ideas from the left. And again, not all of it, and they all have their extreme crazies as well, right? Some of the good ideas from the left has been historically a champion of human rights, protecting minorities, protecting women's rights, protecting gay rights. And this is the left at its best. The left at its worst is when it takes that to the situation sometimes where we see now, where all of a sudden defending people that are being harmed becomes defending an idea designed to harm people.
Yeah, exactly. You have
defending an oppressing ideology, right?
You have the opposites. You have contradictions
your
within.
Anti-imperialist agenda all of a sudden went as far as defending an imperialist ideology, which is Islam, right?
Yes.
So, which is, but I think so. But the thing is, this is expected because every time something works, it does an overcorrection, right? And I expect, and I think I predicted, and now we're saying it, that there's going to be an overcorrection to this overcorrection. Like this, when I say overcorrection, is that racism and misogyny are real things, and what we had some really, and homophobia and transphobia are real things, and there was a reaction to that, a justified reaction to that, which made a lot of progress. Obviously not enough, but still a lot of progress. But there's going to be examples of overcorrection, right? Mm-hmm. Which we see these, some very unique and insane examples of it, right? But now what we're going to see now is an overcorrection to this overcorrection, where people are going to try to bring back xenophobia, not as if it went away, like bring back even stronger, as in response to what they call social justice warriors, mm-hmm. which are, obviously things that we recognize as crazy, and but in response to that, a lot of people are now getting away with promoting xenophobia, misogyny, and homophobia, because they're like, oh, if you defend it, you're one of those social justice warriors. So we have to be careful not to overcorrect in response to this overcorrection, right? And also another thing is that we have to be careful with regards to this. Again, I don't want to call them leftists because I really don't want them to be representative of the left. So because I don't want us to give up on the left, just like I don't want to give up on the word liberal, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to give up on, I'm not a leftist, but I think the leftists should defend the left, right? Yeah. Not let it be taken over by these people. Because these people that we're talking about, I think we should call them far leftists, or maybe the cult of woke or something like that, so that we could be clear that this is not all of the left. But even if you're not part of the left, I think it's good to have a healthy left, right? And I think that people on the left, even though majority of them are not like this, these examples that you suggested, they're the loudest ones, right? And the most influential ones. So even though they're minority, they have the most say, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you why they are extremely dangerous. A lot of people think that their danger is exaggerated, but I'll tell you why, at least now. Historically, the extreme right is more dangerous, usually. But I will tell you why I think the extreme left is showing a unique version of, harm to the world globally. But it's also important for us to, while we fight Islam, to also fight anti-Muslim bigotry, right? Because we don't want to leave that gap open because here's the thing. First of all, we have to do it because they are fellow human beings. Obviously, if they're mistreated, we should defend them,
the problem
right?
is Islam, not Muslims.
Right. Muslims are the victims of Islam, right?
Exactly.
But also the gap that people left by not attacking Islam, and they all of a sudden the far right grew because they turned attacking Islam into an ugly place, right? Mm-hmm. Because they deplatformed and silenced everybody else that was sane and attacking Islam, and the far right became the main place people found when they wanted to see when the people had concerns over Islam. So the alt-right grew because of that, because they gave them a monopoly. So they took advantage of the vacuum. So there's going to be a vacuum also if especially the people that are attacking Islam, I think should be at the front lines in defending Muslims when they are attacked, right? Especially like in places like China, for example, or in India, right?
True.
So the reason, even if you don't do it because you care about your fellow human beings, do it because leaving that vacuum is also going to make the far left now go to take defending Muslims to an ugly place, which it already has, right?
It's already happened, yeah.
Just like the far right takes attacking Islam to an ugly place, the far left will take defending Muslims to an ugly place. And we need to reclaim both of these from the far right and the far left, right? We need to be the same people that attacks Islam and defends Muslims, right?
Yeah, which puts us in the moment you try to criticize Islam, you're already you're already within the group of extreme right.
Yeah, but here's the interesting thing. I have had more luck with Muslims convincing them, and again, I'm not trying to dismiss the fact that a lot of Muslims wish me death threats, right? I had the police had to come to my house twice so far. But there's also a lot of Muslims. If I sit down with a Muslim face, one by one, and talk to them about why my attack on Islam is not an attack on Muslims, I have had a close to 100% success rate with that, as long as I get to talk to them one by one, right? I had close to 0% success rate with the far leftists, right? Not zero. Like I convinced actually a few far leftists, but much less success rate. And this is the tactic I use on Muslims to convince them that why even the most extreme attack I have on Islam is not an attack on them personally. This is what I tell them, and feel free to use this. This has worked for me a lot on Muslims. Okay, and I think this is why I don't. The key thing is the target is Muslims. So even if you're going to be accused of bigotry and racism by some of these far leftists, the main thing is that you need to convince Muslims that you're not attacking them. Okay, that's the more important target to convince, right? And this is what I tell Muslims. I'm like, okay, let's imagine a Muslim, and she really hates atheism, and she wants to destroy atheism. She attacks atheism. And the reason why I don't give them as an example, usually because when I say, let's say you want to attack atheism, and they usually say, some of them say like, oh, I don't want to attack atheism. I'm not like you. I'm not like aggressive like you. And I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about a different hypothetical Muslim, right? And she is very much against atheism. But the reason why she wants to end atheism, destroy atheism, defeat atheism, is because she really cares for atheists, and she worries about them, and she is constantly worried that they're going to burn in hell. Okay? She loves her fellow human beings, and is really troubling her that these people don't believe in God, and they're going to be punished and burned forever in hell for it. And that's why she's attacking atheism. Do you see why her attack on atheism is not an attack on atheists? In fact, do you see why her attack on atheism is because of her love for atheists in this situation?
Yeah.
And they say, yeah, I see that for her. Like, okay, so you see why an attack on atheism could be because of love for atheists. So in the same situation, with the same reason for this, an attack on Islam could even be because of your love for Muslims, because you think they at this point they try to stop you sometimes because okay, but Islam doesn't harm Muslims. And we disagree on that, but that's not the point. If you want to have a conversation with us, at least understand what we think so we can have a better conversation. I might be completely wrong. Like, let's say Islam is completely a great religion, the best thing that has ever happened, really good for Muslims, best thing, it's great to be a Muslim. But if you understand that we think that the main victims of Islam are Muslims, even if we're wrong, even if you're right and we're wrong, can you understand then why our attack on Islam is for our love and concern for our fellow human beings, and not because we're anti-Muslim? Even if we're wrong, can you see that what the intentions might be? And I understand that good intentions might give you bad results, but understanding intentions matter if you want to have a good conversation with somebody.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So that usually has helped me a lot to get their guard down, to see at least understand the intentions.
Yeah,
and
it makes sense. It makes sense. Like,
right.
you're attacking the ideology. You're not attacking the people
right.
who adhere to this ideology. If we are humanists, we care about human beings, so we cannot
right.
attack.
So use that next time you're having a conversation with a Muslim. If you want to convince them that your attack on Islam is not an attack on Muslim, use that as an example.
Yeah, that's a great example. Do you think that last question? Do you think that well, I'm not gonna call them leftists now, but let's call them the far leftists. Okay. Why do you think, or do you think that they're confusing Islam with they're confusing ideology with race? Like when they're defending Muslims, they're defending them as a race, like the brown people.
No, I mean, not anymore. I think we have made that very clear. I think, honestly, I don't. It's really. Let me change that my answer. It really depends on the specific person. Obviously, it depends from one person to another, right? Mm. So some people think like it's racism disguised as religion attack. And to be fair to them, some people do. Some people are actually racist, and they just, some people on the far right, right? But they assume that everybody is like that. Everybody that is attacking Islam must be racist, and they're just, some of them are like, okay, maybe it's not racism, but it's bigotry, right?
Yeah.
Some people have been convinced that Islam has no problem, and a lot of them don't actually care what the truth is. And again, this is not about just them; it's about the fanatics in all tribes, right? Mm. To a lot of these people, the point is that these arguments, these points, is not really about discovering the truth and finding out what's good or what's bad. The point of the conversations and the things you say and the things that you demonize is to say the things that you have recognized as a signal to your tribe that you belong to the tribe.
Mm-hmm. So like you're in a team.
Yeah, and demonize the words and the signals that coming from somebody that makes you recognize them as the enemy, right? Mm-hmm. So this is about creating an identity. Yes. And to create an identity, you have your heroes, you have your in-group, and then you have your devils, right? Mm-hmm. And this is why, for example, you don't see the regressive left or the far left saying much when Muslims are being put in concentration camp. In 1 million of them, 1 million Muslims by China, right?
Yes.
1 million Muslims be put in concentration camps in China. These people don't really care because it's not really about protecting Muslims, right? Because this is not the devil that they recognize. Mm. But if one white supremacist mistreats a Muslim somewhere, then even if it's not in their, because people's like, oh, China is far away. No. If it's a white supremacist, even if you're in the United States and they're in New Zealand, New Zealand, again, that deserved a lot of attention. It should get a lot of attention. But if the same attack happens by Hindus against Muslims in India, and they kill a whole bunch of Muslims in India, some Hindus, they don't care about that.
That's true,
Muslims are dying.
Yes.
But no, it has to be the white supremacists because that's the signal that you recognize as the enemy, as how you signal you stand against that then you are a worthy person in your tribe, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not about protecting people, but it's about sending the right signals to your community to show that you're worthy and you belong there.
Yeah, it's a tribal or team mentality. That's right. My team. These are our signals. Right. That's what we represent. And you don't deviate from them. That's what makes me in this.
So this is why I think the question that people ask, like, how could this make sense? What are they thinking? Because they always assume the goal is to find the truth. But maybe we're asking the wrong question.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's the wrong question to ask, I think.
And again, the reason why I do think that the far left is in a unique situation to cause a lot of damage globally right now is because of their influence in Silicon Valley. Because for some reason, all the conversations on a global scale are happening by a handful of companies that they're all in this one city in California.
Yeah.
That in a city where far leftist ideology has a lot of influence in the community standards that dictates what we get to say and what not to say on a global level, right? This is not about United States or Canada anymore, right? This is about ex-Muslim pages that are studying Iraq being shut down because they said
Oh, yeah. I suffered the same, yeah.
Right. So this is why. So I mean, historically, the far right is a lot more. Far right is a much stronger meme and a much more dangerous virus. But right now, specifically, just because of this unique situation that we have over the far right, if they were ever in power, they would be as more censorial than the far left.
Oh yeah, 100%. Right? Yeah.
But the unique situation that we're right now is that the more dialogue is happening right now as we speak on these people's platforms than offline, in all over the world. Right? Right now, as we speak, more people are having conversations on Silicon Valley platforms than people are having conversations offline. And these people and their policies dictates what these people get to say and not to say. And they are influenced by far left ideology. And that's why the censorial nature of far left ideology right now has a global impact.
I see. Hey, it was a great conversation with you, Armin. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. I loved it so much, so I hope I can be a guest one day in your program. So
yes, I would love that.
We'll talk probably more about Islam, about
no, I want to talk about ex-Muslim and atheists and secular activism in the Arab speaking.
Oh
world.
yeah, that would be great.
And the YouTube community and the growth of it. That's what I want to for an English audience, because I know a lot of Arab-speaking people already know how big of the rise it is. But I want the English-speaking audience to know about the rise of the ex-Muslim community.
That would be great. World. Yeah, I'll be glad to do it. Yeah, it would be great. Hey, thank you so much for your time, and thank you again for accepting the invitation. It was a great conversation with you. Thank you, Armin.
I loved it. It went by so fast. It was such a great fun conversation.
Almost 2 hours.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Here are the Atheist Republic channels on YouTube. There's an English version and an Arabic version.
هل كل ما فعله الرسول من الدين
وهو حر أن يعتقد ما شاء.
الفلسفة توجيه هو السائد.
انت لو لحد السيف ما كنتش هتبقى مسلم